Okay, welcome to the user workflow series with Scrintal. And Bianca is here today. Thank you so much, Bianca, for taking part in this. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing your different boards and seeing your use cases. Would you mind introducing yourself a little bit, Bianca?
Yeah, no problem. My name is Bianca Pereira, and I'm a researcher who became content creator, and I'm going on my independent researcher path now. So I spent almost my entire life in academia. I work in industry as well, in the computer science, research in computer science, and then I learned what is the importance of having personal knowledge management for researchers, because we create knowledge all the time, we work with knowledge, and most of the people are creating like ad hoc knowledge management, or sometimes no knowledge management at all. So when it's time to write up a thesis, write up a paper, it's a lot of work. So I have been focusing on learning that for a long time, practicing that, facing all the problems that we could possibly face, so that now I'm trying to bring to other people how can we make the process easier, and for researchers who are in academia, but also for researchers who are not in academia, like journalists or marketing, content marketing, people who work with content marketing. So that's a little bit of my background. So now I have my own business, and I still do research, and I work a lot with knowledge management for the purpose of research.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And like, what was not working in your workflow for you that you decided to try a visual knowledge management system?
Yeah, what is interesting is that we originally we think like, everything's working or everything's fine, until we see that it can be better. Because I was taking notes, I was already taking notes in a linked way, so I was happy with that. It has improved much more the way how I used to take notes, but I was kind of like facing a barrier, because at some point, I say, when you're in the beginner, just creating the first notes and linking them, you start to get excited. It's like, oh yeah, my ideas are clear. But when you start having like 500 notes, 800 notes, 1,000 notes, it's time for us to generalize the things. So I want to take group of ideas, group of notes, and create something from them. And that's where my workflow was not helping me, because they're all textual notes, and I need something more visual to arrange the ideas around, see the connections with them, and to create something from those ideas. Especially when you're creating, let's say, a paper at the end, a book, or some big project, you need to be composing groups of ideas and see how the groups themselves connect to each other. That's how Scrintal has helped me. Even I created my whole course just using Scrintal boards and cards as well.
Perfect. And like, what are your main use cases in Scrintal? Can you show us like a couple examples? Yeah, so that like it inspires other people, and so that we can get a glimpse of your workflow.
Yeah, sure. Just share my screen here.
Perfect.
I just open Scrintal as a blank canvas. So here we have the blank canvas. So what I'll be doing is either going to the side panel or going to the Spotlight. I use Spotlight or Searchlight many times because I just know the name of the cards. So one of the things that I use quite a bit, and I think most people, especially people doing research or trying to work with research, actually deal with the literature. And the first thing is, when you think about taking literature notes, most of the time literature notes are full documents. People say, I have one paper or I have one book that I want to read. I create one note or one card, and I write everything that I know about that book inside of the note. And I found that that's a big mistake. And I think that's one of the trouble that people sometimes have in using Scrintal. So I want to show one of my book notes. So that's my book note. And that's it. That's the whole content of my book note. So I took notes about this book. I'm still reading it. You can see here, I'm still reading it. But that's all there is in this specific note. I have a summary, some reference that I want to check later, and that's it. So how do I actually take notes from books with Scrintal? I don't use this idea of document notes. When you have a note that is a full document, okay, a report or a book or a notes of a book. Instead, I take idea notes. So each card that I create are actually ideas. And one of the features that I really like in Scrintal is that I have here my input source. Someone wrote that, not me. So this is the source. And when I come to the backlinks, there is where I can see the ideas that link to this source. There can be loading more and more cards. There are actually the ideas that come from, that are related to this source. So for example, if I click in one of them, for example, business values, okay? So I have a note about what business values are, and I can have links to other ideas. For example, I have reflection here of my own business values, which is in another card. And when you take idea notes, that's where I think the power of Scrintal can come through, because this idea appears in this source, but this idea also appears in another source.
Yeah.
Okay. And it also relates to even other source and other ideas. Okay. So I think that's one of the things that for me, it's good to see that. And in Scrintal, I can actually just take a source here, put on my desk, and then start showing the links.
Yeah.
The thing, I start expanding the network. So those are the things that will really I can just add them into the desk. You select everything, and then start playing with it, and start expanding some things that come from it. So let's say business values, I want to expand again. Then say, what else I want to bring here? Maybe personal brands. Okay. So I can start exploring and seeing, well, how those things relate to each other through the graph. So that's one of the things. One of the main things is really taking the notes about the source and having there. So that's one of the use case.
And there, I just have like one question. How are you using tags in such a system?
I use tags most for categorization, like for metadata. Is either for process, for example, to say if I'm reading, I'm watching something, I process, or if it's still in my anti-library, which is a place where I hold high quality inputs, or to say which type of card is this, because I use, for example, for idea management. So all my cards which don't have tag are ideas. I just assume that, but I have some cards that are not ideas, like this one. These are source. Okay, so I have inputs. There are source, meetings, and other types of things. There's like, what's the word out there providing me? Observation of the word. I have the ideas, which I have no tags. Okay. And I have the outputs, which are the notes that stand for an expression that I want to do to external world, let's say, something that I will write, a presentation that I will give. So those are the main tags that I use personally.
Perfect. And like there, do you have any suggestions for anyone, maybe a researcher, maybe even like non-researcher, who are taking these type of idea notes and also like source notes?
I think the main thing is to move away from the mindset of taking documents and say, if I'm reading a paper, if I'm reading a book, what's important in there, especially for research, okay? The important thing is like, what are the ideas that are being conveyed or given by that source, and how they connect to everything else, to my own experience, to the work that I'm trying to do, to the data that I'm analyzing, because at the end, the ideas that we care about. Because if we just write everything about a given, let's say, about this book in this single card here, the problem is later when I want to find, let's say, everything I know about business values, the idea itself will be spread around cards. So it'd be hard for me to find what do I know about this idea? What do I know about this concept? Okay, what do I know about this? That's one of the things.
Okay.
If I can share one more thing, maybe.
Yeah, please.
For example, there was a course that I took recently. Interesting name, Champagne Client Kit. And it's linked to different types of notes, because most of the time as well, there's one thing is the document notes, but when you move away from it, we think that everything are topics and concepts.
Yeah.
But actually, when you're communicating, especially for research, I like to emphasize that, because it's not like that for everyone. We are creating an argument. Okay, so arguments are made of claims. So you see, like sometimes my notes are what you call concept, let's say, or topics, however you want to call it. Like in the other one, let's say business values is a concept. Sometimes they're actually claims. Okay, so you can find here, they are very opinionated, let's say. So high-end clients are looking for a convenient, holistic solution. High-end clients are ready to buy. So all those ideas came from attending this course. Okay, so for example, this one, high-end clients will not buy something that looks cheap. Okay, so then you can explain how it came from that source, what the person was trying to say, and link to other ideas. So our arguments, they're actually embedded in the network between our cards, because we have the claims and the premise that creates that claim as a conclusion, that justify that claim, and then you can go and create our whole network of claims in there. So that's another way to also use the power of the links. Okay, and if I start expanding, I can actually see the whole claim network, and that's what to build my own outputs. When I create all the claims, by having in a visual way, I can have a network of all the arguments, so I can write an output about that, a paper or a presentation, whatever it is.
And I can see that, for example, you were able to think of the name of a card and you brought it from Spotlight. So when you want to look at all these claims, do you usually bring all of them to your desk just to see them visually, or how does it go for you?
Yeah, I'm always wary of showing everything, because there are a lot of private things here. That's why I'm not navigating the way that I will usually navigate. Sometimes I know the name, then I go direct to that. But usually I jump from note to note. I just I have a starting point, or I call my entry point notes. There are the notes I usually come back to them over and over again, because I remember their names. And there are many notes that I don't fully remember. I kind of have a feeling. And then I use the entry point notes to jump from notes to notes. That's why the links are important. The ability to put them in the screen are important, and to expand, just say show links and give me all those trails. So those are the important things for me. That's how I usually. But it's always will I open some personal information, the person will do that.
Yeah, of course. And there, do you have some boards that you use in your courses that you can show us, just to show how you can actually create or manage a course in a board?
Oh, I have. Let me open. I will pause my sharing just for a second. I have actually many boards for my course itself. I think I can show everything. Should be fine. My little mess. I call my little mess. This is the board to organize my course. This is one of the boards to organize my course. Yeah. So I have, let's say, learning objectives. I have the things that I want to change in the curriculum. I have here's just some thoughts of things that I want to organize, what I call PKM mindsets. And here is the main area where I look into, okay, what to be on onboarding week, what to be on unit 1, the main modules, okay? So units 2, units 3, and units 4. And then within those, I actually create their own boards, okay? So if I want to open this, I can just open unit 1 board, and it should appear there. So I have my whole board here, because then I have the modules, and then here are the modules, and then what will be the lessons for each module, and the lessons are linked to the ideas that give idea to that lesson. So that's how I'll be using to create my course.
This looks amazing. And why do you choose this type of visual boards to organize this information?
It's a kind of at some point you just struggle and just I need to almost draw, because that's what happened in the past. I had notes, and then I say, but I need to organize them, and I just take a paper and start writing down. And when people take paper notes, they do the same. They start to get Post-its and just write things down. Where here is already readily available, I just say, okay, I'll just open a new board and start throwing things there and start organizing visually, so that I can I can make sense of them. It's almost like having a board at the wall. I always like to do this metaphors, like you're actually creating a board with post-its, but the difference is that you can add more information than in post-its. Because post-its, you have like a few words, where here you can have the whole thoughts and the links to other thoughts that don't even appear here. So that's one of the things that are important to me. It's good to know that by having links to the thing, I can remove the cards from the board, but the cards are still there. I can still pull them back if I just say, click on something, say, show the links. So I can still pull the card back. So it's much better than just dealing with text or dealing with something that is not digital.
That looks amazing, actually. And like, what would you suggest, like, or give as a tip or a hack to another person who wants to use Scrintal this way to create course content or to create like book notes?
Yeah, I would say, well, hack is hard, but I would say, like, feel free to create a board, and the most important thing is to create links between things. How things relate to each other. Okay, think about, like, is this a part of it? Is a generalization of it? Is it related to it? Write in the text, like, what's the relation? Don't be afraid of creating links, because that's what gives power to the boards. Because sometimes the board is like, I just want enough information for me to make sense of everything that I want to talk about or think about. So sometimes I say, well, if I want to make sense of everything, I'll put all my cards in there, and that becomes overwhelming. So what we actually need is, like, we take a few cards, we make sense of them, maybe create some generalizations, and then we remove the cards from the board and we bring in other cards, or we can separate them using the colors. But it's important that you have links so that you can remove the cards and know that you can put them back. Because what happens when you don't have links, we remove the cards and then we forget which cards we have, so we cannot put them back. So I think the most important thing is to think about the links and think about ideas, because the idea is what unlocks the power of using those links.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, this looks amazing. I love like looking at your board like this. Yeah. And I just wonder, like, what's your whole knowledge workflow look like? Like, where does it start? Where does it end?
Yeah, it starts with just open a note, sometimes an empty note, not knowing the title of it, and just writing it down. It's like, I want to express something, just writing it down. If I just like want to express my ideas, or open an input note, and then from there, opening the source and start taking notes about the ideas and relating that to that input, what I call the input note, which is a note about the source. So that's where we capture ideas. Sometimes the capture actually happen at the end of the process, but I'll talk about it later. So we capture the ideas, we organize them by making those idea notes, ensure that they are idea notes. Because sometimes when you express, you just want to throw everything onto the page, onto the card in this case. And based on that, okay, now I need to organize, extract what are the ideas that I have written here. So I extract the ideas, and then I start making sense of them, growing those ideas, which is something that I didn't show here yet. Which, like, you can use, you can write more text about the idea, you can link them to other things, or you can actually use visual sense making, which is like, how can I use the properties of space and color, the visual elements, to make sense of ideas, because now my cards are ideas, okay? And then based on that, and creating claims and all those things. So I grew my knowledge. Now, how can I write it down? How can I create an output? So I create what I call the output notes, where I can create. They usually start as a board. I create boards, and I say, this is what I'll talk in the whole presentation. And then I create an output note that is just the outline of ideas, okay, that come from that. That's what I call the output note. And based on that, then I can actually write the output or create a presentation or whatever is the type of output that I want to create. And then in that case, that's where I come to other softwares, other place where the output actually will be created, or will leave, let's say, the presentation sometimes, depending on the types of presentation, or it's a newsletter or anything like that.
Yeah, so your outputs are usually like a newsletter, presentations, or a board that includes all course information, for example. Is that correct?
Yeah. Would be newsletters or research papers, in which case I write in on the platform, as I said. Would be visuals as well, though I don't do I do a little bit of visuals as well. Like how can I represent an idea visually, like with icons, with a few things. Not total infographics. Yeah. So presentations and written things are the main ones. Although I start to plan videos as well. So let's see how to go the workflow for videos.
Yeah, perfect. And what is maybe like my final question, like what is the most used feature of Scrintal for you? What do you like use most?
Links. That's number one. The way how I do things is just like I open a card and I start thinking about, and I say ideas, and then I just keep going, it's just like, and then when you see, like when I'm creating something, it's a mess because there is a card here that I write, and there are tons of cards popping up around that I just close everything later. Yeah.
Perfect. And like, what are you most excited about? Like, is in terms of like what's coming up next in Scrintal?
Yeah, what I really want to see are more visual things, because I do also visual sense making when I use the colors of the card, the space, and it's good, let's say, if I want to group things, to have elements that can group things, or choose other types of colors, choose other visual elements that I can add meaning to the ideas, because the ideas currently they're just represented by this card is one idea, they have a relationship, and maybe the color has also an associated meaning. Maybe if they are far off, they are close, there is also meaning to that. But it'd be good to have even more visual elements so that I can even add more meaning, so that I can create something from the ideas that I already took notes of. Yeah.
Perfect. And more like definitely more visuality and like more getting inspiration from other users, utilizing some templates is coming up in Scrintal. Yeah, but thank you so much for this, Bianca. It was amazing to see like your world, to get a glimpse of your mind, actually. Thank you very much for sharing this with us. And yeah, I'm very looking forward to sharing this with everyone.
Well, thanks a lot, Edge. I think it's always good to talk. So if anyone also wants to come and see how I use Scrintal or have any questions, just feel free to contact me. We are always in the Scrintal community as well, in the Slack community. So we can always have a chat there as well, or on Twitter or wherever we are. So, and I'm looking forward to learn from others as well. Like, what is everyone doing? What can we learn?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bianca.